and the Super Touring Championship franchise heads stateside for what is perceived to be the first time. We'll get into the greater detail at the end of this footage as to why that isn't the case, but it is new to the channel. Hello there, Adrian Michael Reese here, presenting the American Super Touring Championship, and we are at Watkins Glen for the media day and the runners and riders taking part. It is a 19 car field, I believe, and alongside me, as per usual now, and he's made the journey too, Michael Sonnerton. Is that correct? We've got 19 runners here. I'm looking at the maths here. 19.
Yes, you are correct. Hello, everybody. Yes, 19 car grid for this one. So if you see a safety car in the background, pay it no attention.
And the NASCAR variant of Watkins going to be used for testing after the fact as well. I don't think we're going to be reading too much into it because it's going to be a very high speed circuit compared to most of the venues we have been around, but it does play a part in the calendar. In fact, let's look at that first. And boy, is it an interesting calendar. You'd think we'd be doing some ovals, but that's me being an ignoramus. We're not. And I think it's a good reason that we're not as well. We're heading on some road courses. We are heading to some well, there is an oval we're visiting, but it could be an infield variant of that course. And we're also hitting some sweet spots for both for Grand Prix, for IndyCar, for NASCAR, and uh, also sports cards. We're also sweetening the deal a bit further with a flyaway event to Interlagos, and that might be with good reason as well when we take a look at the entry list. And Swinny's got the drone again. He's going to show us the liveries and teams. It's going to be an interesting view of things stateside. You'll see some familiar faces, you'll see some familiar fascias, and you'll see some familiar names too.
Yeah,
Over to you,
absolutely.
Swinny.
So let's crack on with this. So first things first, let's start by just sort of giving a little bit of a background on the American Super Touring Championship. I know we
Ah, yes.
mentioned it in previous broadcasts for the World Series and the Japanese Series and what have you. This is technically season 2 of this championship. We had a winner already. The series was going to try and go in its own direction, being a multi-class effort with V8 powered pony cars up front leading the way, and then the TC cars that you and I all know and love that we've seen in the World Series and the Euros and what have you, bringing up the secondary category. They've hit upon a very good problem in that both Chevy, Ford, Dodge and Lexus wanted to continue their efforts with these new V8 cars, and the privateer team that was running a Mercedes C63 AMG had a good enough year that they wanted to continue. And on top of that, they had enough interest from other teams that is now its own championship. However, we're not covering that. That is gone beyond our jurisdiction, and we wish them the best of luck with all the drivers and teams that are taking part over there. So what we are left with here is just the super touring cars. So essentially that privateer, that super touring category. It's now going to look a little bit more like the World Series. We have got some new manufacturers that have come in to fill the void of Chevy and Dodge and Lexus. There are some drivers that have stayed on for a second year, some drivers that were in that TC category originally, racing for those privateer honours, essentially, who have stayed in those privateer cars, a couple of drivers who have moved their way into manufacturer roles for this championship here, and a few people that used to drive V8s in the previous series have stayed in this championship instead of moving on to the new V8 series. So with that big old disclaimer out the way, we'll have a look at the grid now finally, shall we? There it is. You'll see very recognizable things up front here because this is a livery we are used to seeing in the World Super Touring Championship, and that is Ford, who have stayed here to commit to this. Obviously, no more Mustang, not even the EcoBoost variant. So here we are with the Focus ST yet again.
Stuart Wickens then, familiar 3M driver. disappeared off the face of the World Championship, and Elliot Mayfield in the other car. This is car 2, the other car being number 3. You'll see a similar pattern to the numbering as well, with the manufacturer efforts and the privateer efforts have their own numbering, but that's a little bit by the by. Yes, it's a very familiar feature, is a focus in that colour scheme.
Yes, absolutely. So Stuart Wickens and Elliot Mayfield here are two of the drivers I was just previously speaking about. Wickens was racing one of the Works Mustangs in the last season, and Elliot Mayfield was racing one of the Works Dodge Challengers and got very close to winning the championship in that Challenger. Mayfield has switched from Dodge to Ford. He stayed in this championship, so he swapped out rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive. I don't know how much experience he has in front-wheel drive, so that's going to be an interesting little question that we get to cover and see how well he does there. Wickens, of course, is no stranger to a Ford Focus ST, having spent a good few years in the 3M cars previously. Obviously, he made the jump to a full manufacturer driver last year with that Mustang, as previously said. So, in theory, Wickens should hit the ground running, but you never know with this kind of touring car caper. But that is Ford. So now we move on to some of the new manufacturers that have decided to come play now that it's just a single category and there's no V8s to be found. And we start with Mazda of sorts. So this is not
Boy,
the full Mazda team that takes part in the Japanese series and the European series. This is a sort of spin-off B team, as it were. It's still got Mazda backing. It's still a manufacturer team. RX Performance with a very, very interesting choice of car.
and a very, very familiar face too. Now, it does look very hatchback shape, but boy, is it huge.
Yeah, it's not as tall as you'd think, but it is technically a crossover SUV. So this is the first crossover we've seen taking part in touring car championships, which makes sense if you think about it. Hopefully, that higher center of gravity doesn't spell disaster for them, which is sort of my worry when running one of these things. But it's front-wheel drive. It is a four-door option, so it completely fits within the rules of the championship. Therefore, here it is.
And competing for it, we've seen this face before. We've seen him winning races before. Sergio Suarez, bit of a gamble in one of the bigger cars, but it does. You are correct. It does fit the shape hatchback coupe. Now then, Patrick Tagliani. What sort of? I mean, are we talking unknown quantity here, Swinny?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not too. I believe he's done MX5 Cup here in the States, amongst a couple of other things in his homeland of Canada. Beyond that, obviously we wish him the best of luck. I don't know how much experience he has in front wheel drive. Clearly, Mazda saw something in him to pick him up for this role, and I think this is a good pairing of drivers ultimately because you've got Suarez, who is a known quantity, obviously had that decent career with Volkswagen and impressed people enough in the Honda Civic back in the day in the World Series. He spent the last season racing a privateer Golf in this championship. Um, so he's got a good amount of experience. He's got a year's worth of experience under his belt of the track, so he knows where he's going. It's just a case of getting to grips with a new car and then being a bit of a driver coach to his much younger teammate here. So we'll see how that one pans out.
Good seat to graduate to then for any future Mazda drivers who wanting to get into the big time. And then speaking of B teams,
Yes.
BMW, and speaking of side steps, we knew about this. Sophia Schneider has stepped away from the works effort. American input or American interest has been wanting Sophia Schneider to come here, and obviously she's on board with this, as is AJ Newgarden in the number 7. Familiar car and a very interesting new paint choice.
Yeah, absolutely. They've gone. So again, this is another BMW backed, but not the full BMW team. It's a sort of spin-off B team like the Mazda team is, but obviously they're using a very known quantity in the car. They got Sophia Schneider on early, so she's still on the BM payroll, but this time she can now be a team leader. She was getting kind of, it was sort of publicly known, she was getting a bit annoyed a couple of elements in the World Series, which was basically preventing her from winning races. So she's come over here to help, hopefully contend for a championship and get back to where she knows she can be in speed. We'll have to wait and see on that one. We wish him all the best of luck. AJ Newgarden, I saw him take part in the Pan European Mini Championship, which is a championship for classic minis. He did pretty well in that. As the lone American in a European championship, he impressed well enough there. He's managed to take a huge leap up from racing a tiny British Leyland car with a Series A engine in it to a BMW with a 6-cylinder in it. So here we are.
Very tentative BMW link up, even if it's the wrong Mini to get to this seat. But there we go.
Yes.
Now that's 6 of the top teams. There are a lot of teams here, but the last of the manufacturer inputs, it doesn't get more Latin than an Alpha being driven by 2 South Americans. So this is Pasta Montoya of Colombia, and you've also got Helio de Ferran in the other car. They are still Alphas, but unlike the Worlds, they've gone for a similar identity.
Yeah, so this is the main Alfa Romeo team. They're doubling up their efforts, just like a lot of manufacturers are doing these days. Pastor Montoya proved himself last season in another privateer Golf, getting a class win at where was it now? Oh, my brain has failed me. We got a class win last year. If the track comes back to me, it will come back to me. Willow Springs, that was the one. Got a class win at Willow Springs, much to the sort of shock of everybody, it must be said, because obviously we all know the Golf is has its troubles, shall we say. So he definitely impressed there, and he impressed Alfa Romeo enough to have him have a go in their main Alfa Romeo Works effort here. Obviously, with the person with the year's worth of experience under his belt, they expect him to lead the charge. Helio de Ferran, good, solid, safe pair of hands from Brazil. I believe he's done some smaller touring car work and hot hatch work in South America and places. So he has got a bit of a reputation there for just being able to bring the car home, not necessarily being lightning fast, but being consistent about things. And as you've heard me speak before of consistency, so that's a win in my book. But that is your 4 manufacturers that are taking part in the American series. So after this, we'll be moving on to privateers.
Pastor Montoya then showing BMW's of one of BMW's aims was to be a starter piece for anyone doing super touring, and obviously Pastor Montoya being a classic example of that. We're going to see a couple of them in with the privateers shortly. In fact, I was hoping to see, going by the list I'm seeing here, his car was meant to be next in the order. But in fact, what I am seeing there is, in fact, the only Volvo in the game. And this is top engineering and another South American in Jose Maria Tuero. And that's a Volvo V40 if I've ever seen one.
Yes, absolutely. So Jose Maria Tuero, hailing from Argentina. There is a reason why he is car 21. This single car outfit won the TC category in the previous season. So whilst William Gordon and Chevrolet were taking top manufacturer honours in the V8 category, Tuero here managed to expertly wheel this Volvo to a championship win last year. So he is reigning privateer champion, essentially. And this team ran very, very well. They, again, nicely consistent, had a lot of good speed, were able to adapt to all the different kinds of circuits, and it paid off for them.
So for those keeping track, even though we're not covering the V8 class anymore, they would have had the numbers 1 to 10 or just above that. But then car 21 was the leader of the TC class, this class. So they've kept that bit of consistency. Personally, I prefer this to be the number 1 car because he is the defending champion of this category. But that's where we've gone. That's where they've gone with this, no big deal. It kind of
Yeah, well, I mean,
separates out
if
the
he
manufacturers from the. Go on.
yeah, if he somehow manages to beat the 8 cars in front of him and wins the title overall, then yes, he can have car number one.
Fair is
But
fair.
yes, that is also the reason why the Fords we saw at the start were cars 2 and 3, is because Ford technically finished second in the Manufacturers' Championship last year because Chevrolet took those honours. There is no Chevrolet, therefore it all moves down a rung. But obviously, car number one is still reserved for the champion, William Gordon, no longer here, therefore Stuart Wiggins gets car
Fair
two.
enough. Fair enough. Now, single car effort for top racing then, but there are two car efforts as you'll see in the Worlds, and here are two of them right now. This is the M4 again, the tried and tested M4, and two outsiders, so to speak. Turner Motorsports then, with what seems to be Enzo Bortolotti and Scott Hume. Scott Hulme? Hume? Hulme? How
Hume,
you
I think.
Hume? Hume.
Yeah, so
And
again, good
this
solid
is
effort
another run
team.
from season one, I suppose.
Yes, these guys were here in season one. Most of these teams that you are going to see were in season one as well. Indeed, with this driver lineup, they did pretty well. They got a couple of class wins. They did okay, hence cars 22 and 23. Yeah, not really much to think about. They just sort of were solidly there every single time. Had a few forgettable finishes, but that's just the nature of the beast. And yeah, so we'll have to see how they do now that they can, in theory, move further on up, because it wouldn't surprise me if we see some privateers mixing it up with the manufacturers in front as certain teams get to grips with their new cars. Whereas
I'm
all of
thinking this
these
is going to
guys
be
have got a year's worth of experience under their belts.
very similar to Japan then in the crossover between works and privateer efforts then. And speaking of, we saw a glimpse of it earlier. We may as well show them. This livery is back on your screens, folks. It's the 3M team out of the World's America for their second spell, and two fresh faces to us at least. This is Martin Hobbs and A.B. Lawrence.
Yeah, so the 3M team, we all know and love them. They were in the World Series. We did announce their departure back in season 5, season 6, whenever it was, 2 seasons ago, that they were coming and taking part here. They did. They did quite well. Amy Lawrence was their new hire. Martin Hobbs spent the last season racing the other works Mustang alongside Stuart Wickens. He decided that he'd rather enjoy the slightly less pressure of a privateer team, which we've seen drivers do that before, and it's worked well for them. And he says he actually really loves front-wheel drive, so I think he just sort of jumped at the opportunity to go from Mustang to Focus.
Uh, if I remember correctly, he's not much of a fan of multiple V8s. He was happy enough to be in a gang of 9 or 10, but with an entire field, he's like, may as well be an entire field of super tourers. Um, that's the word I heard at least. We'll have to have a proper chat with the guy at some point in the future about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yes,
But again, they both have a year's worth of experience under their belt, so in theory, with tried and tested cars that are an absolute known quantity, they should do okay. Should, as much as I do not want to put the commentator's curse on them.
so whilst we're not seeing we've seen a factory-backed Focus team, we've seen a privateer Focus team. Honda do have a presence in America, and I was expecting there to be some kind of manufacturer effort there. However, here is the only two Hondas that you're going to see this season, and this is another FK8 Ohio Motorsports, and this is going by the paperwork I'm seeing. There might be a misprint here, unless it is Leah Eversley, not Lisa Eversley.
No, it's Leah Eversley.
Leah Eversley and Adrian Jourdain Jr. Eversley American, Jourdain Jr. is Mexican.
Yep, absolutely. Once again, so these cars, these have had an interesting history. These are the original Team Tamiya Honda Civics. That's where these cars came from. This Ohio Motorsports team bought these old FK8 Civics off the Team Tamiya guys once they upgraded to the FL5 Civic. And they've done pretty well with them. They had a bit of a rough start. They sort of spun their wheels a little bit in getting them going, but once they did get going, they started putting in good finishes. Um, what helped with them last season is they managed to coax Tom Nielsen back out of retirement, long-time Honda factory driver, as you may remember, to drive the second car there to help Leah Eversley get to grips with front-wheel drive. And it paid off, but obviously Tom wants to go back into retirement. He was happy in his consultancy role, and so they brought in the rookie from Mexico to fill his seat, and we wish them the best of luck. Again, cars that are very much a known quantity, like the Fords in front of them. I feel like these four cars have just shared an eternity together at this point.
I'd be surprised if we saw another one of the classic now, previous gen Honda Civics. Thankfully, the UASA team put pay to that, got that out of the way in the first of the Japanese championships, and that's your two-car lineup privateer outfits at least out the way. We still go further back, and if we thought the yellow one was bright enough on the BMWs, blimey, this is one of the Golfs run to Volkswagen support as privateers, as was the original plan. And this is Ryan Campbell, Barn Burner Racing, sponsored by a
Yes.
very well-known livery and
Yes,
company.
so Ryan Campbell, I think the only Australian driver in the grid, or one of the few Australian drivers in the grid. Um, he's the only Australian driver in the grid. Yes, so this is the team that Pastor Montoya used to drive for. And rather ironically, last season this car was white. Um, uh, they managed to score with Montoya's efforts, putting in that class win at Willow Springs and some other good results. Obviously the team were able to leverage that on a marketing front, which has enabled some pretty big name sponsors to appear on this single car team. So hopefully Ryan Campbell does well and fills the shoes nicely that Montoya has left. We know the car has speed in it because Montoya has demonstrated that. This, I believe, so just like the four cars in front, I think this was Nico Wirtz's ex-World Super Touring Golf. I
Ah,
think that's where
yes.
this car has come from. So this one has had just as much experience racing the four cars in front as those four cars even. So yes, Ryan Campbell here again has got a lot of experience racing in Australia. This is his first international endeavour. So yes, we'll have to wait and see how well he does adapting to this new car.
And we're seeing obviously a consistent run of very well presented cars and equipment in the pits there, staff in the pits as well. There's no Duff livery at least. I mean, we'll have to see what the interiors are like when they hit the road course in California, the Grand Valley Highway 1 course. But on to um, what looks like the Mazda, but one we're more familiar with then, the Mazda 3, Loic Estra, Stenhouse Motorsports, and looking the part as well.
Yep. So once again, Loic Estre and Stenhouse were here last year as a single car effort. This is a front-wheel drive Mazda 3, so this is what you're used to seeing in the European Super Touring Championship. I believe they got Mazda to build them a new car for this. This isn't a hand-me-down from the Euro Series. This was a new car, so it's got a whole 1 year's worth of racing under its belt. Loic Estre has proven to be quite quick in this car, despite don't let the number 29 fool you. He put in some incredibly good results. He just had some incredibly bad results, which is why he's all the way back here. It was a lack of consistency that really messed up their championship hopes. But here they are. They've got a quick car. They've got good backing. So in theory, we should see them move up through the order a little bit.
And then there is two more to go whilst we still focus on the Mazda 3. Another well presented Alpha, and hopefully not the villain of the piece here. This is Rubens Pizzoni then, 5G Motorsport, very well sponsored, sponsored almost with the pun and the sponsor as well, but they are called 5G Motorsport for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of the other rear-wheel drive privateer teams here. Uh, Rubens Pitsonia, of course, was ex-Mazda in the Japanese series. He's since moved on to racing this privateer. I wouldn't necessarily call it a step down because, again, just like Loic Estre in front of him, he had some incredibly good results where he was the quickest thing on four wheels in the TC category and nobody could touch him. And then he had some other finishes where he couldn't keep up with anybody. So hopefully he's worked on where he was struggling, because I think it might have been just a lack of track knowledge that was messing him over in the previous season. And we know the Alpha's quick. We've had proof of that time and time again, that the Alfa Romeo is quick. So again, I would hopefully we see him move forwards and up and move through the grid a little bit here.
Onwards and upwards.
Yeah.
One to go then, and another staple of Volkswagen. Then there are a vast swathe of these GTIs running their own sort of club championships in certain regions of the state, so West Coast, East Coast, and well done on Volkswagen keeping the momentum going and trying to maintain as much interest in super touring. And another international driver here, Jos van der Gaard, and Field Gun Racing. And it's a very, I mean, we'll obviously talk about the driver and the team, but just a very well presented lineup of cars throughout. Give or take the safety car, of course.
Yeah, of course. So this is the Golf. This is Suarez's old Golf, and I mean that in both. This is what he raced in the World Super Touring Championship, and then this is what he raced last season. Did okay with it, but obviously it's at the back of the grid for a reason. I think Suarez is going to be somewhat happy to be out of this car and into that new Mazda, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Jos van der Gaard, again, coming from various club and regional championships in the Netherlands and Europe, has got a decent amount of experience under his belt, so we'll have to see how well he does with a car that, as we've said before, has been known to struggle a little bit. So we wish them the best of luck there. And of course, with the rookie badge on the back, he is going to have the extra challenge of learning these circuits because he's not raced in the US before.
And as per the venues, a very eclectic mix of new and interesting locations. Some will know, some will recognise from the past that have been improved. But the key feature is that Road Atlanta being the final round on the same weekend as the 10-hour endurance race as well. In fact, let's go through that entire list right now. Grand Valley Speedway, then that's going to be Highway 1, the full course there. Historians may know that there was a long distance race there in the past, closed down due to safety reasons, reopened with having public roads being built over it, but still being reopened to the public again. Willow Springs, familiar to those that have watched the Ford versus Ferrari Le Mans 66 film in the last couple of years, and also those that have played racing games like Gran Turismo and Project Cars 2 of all things. Nice, fast-flowing desert layout with a bit of a hilly section in between, being round 2. And then we're back here for the third round then, the short layout, the NASCAR layout, which is almost flat out in parts, sort of truncated by the bus stop chicane. Trial Mountain. Now there's a name to conjure with. Another club level endurance race around there. Similar to the, I say Bathurst without the straights, I suppose, even though it has straights, but we're talking not as long as Conrod for round 4 there. And then Laguna Seca round 5. And then the flyaway to Brazil, Interlagos, the Grand Prix layout. I'd be surprised if they can get a short course done for Interlagos, but that's by the by, to keep the Brazilians happy and to keep the Brazilians in the championship happy as well, and that's to a degree the South Americans too. And then we're back to Blue Moon Bay, not the oval for the 400 miler, but it's the infield A layout, which personally could do with an upgrade. It's challenging on a sort of track day fastest lap, but not. I don't think it's suited for racing really. But it is another American circuit to visit. But back then to Grand Valley on a shorter layout, one that used to be used in the past as well. Back to Watkins Glen on the full Grand Prix course then, also used for the 6 hour. And of course, round 10, Road Atlanta, full layout, of course. So, Swinny, what with that sort of calendar there, what are your standouts there? What do you think is going to pique the interest of everyone?
I mean, they're all good tracks. Obviously, Blue Moon Bay, the World Super Tourers actually went there for one of their seasons.
Of
So
course.
we've seen touring car racing happen there before. I think Willow Springs is going to prove to be interesting because last season it was interesting. Stands to reason that more of the same should be good there. And it is a good historic circuit, kind of like the American version of Thruxton, if people know
Agree.
of Thruxton here here in the UK. As I said, everything else is pretty much a known quantity, so it's we almost know what to expect. It's not like we're going to any huge brand new facility tracks that have got tons of runoff everywhere, allowing all the cars to get spread out and spaced out and not really race each other wheel to wheel like we like to see. So yeah, it's a good calendar. I'm looking forward to it. I think there's no real misstep there. I think a race in Canada probably would have been a good idea, but hey ho, here's hoping that happens in the near future or next season or whenever. But otherwise, that's the calendar we've got. That's the calendar we'll go to, and that's the calendar we will enjoy these cars at.
And it is going to be your usual format. 2 races. Top 10 will be reversed. And it's the usual points for 1st to 15th. Highest of the privateers teams, or the teams will get their own championship. As for the drivers, it is very much a standalone championship. Whoever's got the most points at the end of the championship fairly obviously wins the American Super Touring Championship and gets the number 1 for next year. 10 rounds, 20 races. Where have we seen that before? Oh yes, World Supers. We'll be doing them shortly. So we'll see you in the next video for that. On behalf of Michael Swinnerton, Adrian Michael Reese saying good racing, everyone.